All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another edition of Rooster and the Villain. Uh, what seems to be a very, at least the last three episodes I've been a part of. Me and the Seagull, Jake Kennecke. Jake, how are you doing, buddy?
Doing good. It somehow went back up to 90 degrees today, so not enjoying that. Was supposed to play on my seven-a-side team last night as well, and my back tire exploded on the way there, so was
Okay.
unable to do that either. So it's been a great week.
Man, I'd much rather have a flat tire on the way to work than I would on my way to playing soccer. But
Exactly.
all right, well, hey, so I know that you and Mike did a show, and then we had the international break, so we don't have to cover all the football going back because obviously not an international break that anyone wants to talk about. But we did have some excellent Premier League football this past weekend coming back. Um, I know Brighton had a particularly nice result. I don't know if you want to start with Brighton, and we'll work from there.
Absolutely. So this weekend we took on Newcastle United, a very, very talented team in Newcastle United. Former Brighton man Dan Burn, Isak back from injury, and I was kind of curious as to what Hertzler was going to set up for with this game, and he, in a way, sort of set up the like a David Moyes style game where we just absorbed everything. Like 60% of the ball for Newcastle, which is very unlike Brighton. They had a higher XG, um, almost double our passes that we had, which is, like I said, very unlike us. But I think it shows Hertzler's tactical flexibility, something I was kind of bitching about in earlier episodes about, rigidity of managers nowadays or whatever. But um, yeah, I guess he just didn't want to play that style against a team like Newcastle who could give it back to us, and we sat deeper and went on the counter attack, and that ended up paying off in the 35th minute. Beautiful, beautiful pass to Lewis Dunk. Um, Welbeck sort of playing the target man, lays it off to Reuter, who hangs on to it for a second, gives it right back to Welbeck, and we got the only goal of the game. Then pretty much just hung in there to win. Welbeck ends up going down with an injury. Looked kind of scary because he got carted off the field, back injury. But everything I've seen on social media, including from Welbeck himself, said he should be back in training soon. So it's good. No injury, no serious injury, and we definitely really can't afford to lose him for a long stretch of time. Um, I think the thing I was most, I don't know if pleased is the right word uh, for it, but just kind of impressed at the way Hertzler managed the game from there on out. Like he brought in a Stupion um, and pushed Kadioglu, who was playing left back. He pushed him over to the right back spot. So you still had a bit of an attack, but you had wing backs and sort of a back five, and we just absorbed everything. For Bruggen was fantastic, kept us in the game. It easily could have been 3-1 for Newcastle. He had some great blocks. Um, Baleba and Hinshelwood continue to impress as those deeper midfielders, central midfielders. Um, Iari, the chances that he's gotten this year, he started today sort of as like a left mid, left wing type guy. Been very, very impressed with him every time I've seen him on the field. And then Reuter, $40 million well spent. That guy is a stud.
Yeah, I think he's definitely shown up the last couple weeks, or at least a couple game weeks for you guys. I probably took a little bit for him just to adjust. Coming over a little late. But yeah, definitely he's super talented. I did want to ask you a little bit because it was a little bit different of a lineup. I don't think that I recall ever and you can correct me, but in the De Zerbi days that Welbeck and Ferguson started, together as a striking pair. I thought that was interesting,
Yeah.
especially like you said, given Ayari was coming in on that left side where Matoma, started on the bench.
Mhm.
Um, did you think that this is that Herzler is going to be more of I have 20 some guys that are worth playing and I will tactically line up every week to adjust to other teams, or is this kind of a one off? Do you think he's going to go back to like trying to impose his own style, his own formations on other teams?
I don't think you're going to see it against Wolves because we played our game. I mean, I understand it was a cup tie, but we played our game against Wolves. So I don't think against them. I think what I'm hoping is, and I could see him doing it because I mean he's proven more and more that he is a very intelligent manager. I could see him doing this against the quote unquote big clubs, like the clubs like De Zerbi. That was the thing that irritated me a lot with De Zerbi was we'd go up against Pep Guardiola and Manchester City, and he would try to play possession ball against those guys, and it's
Yeah.
not going to work. So you got a front line of Isaac, Murphy, and Gordon for Newcastle, and we absorbed all of that. So I'm very, very intrigued to see what he does against bigger clubs if this trend continues. But I think Wolves will play our game again against them.
For sure. No, I mean, obviously, to get 3 points away is one thing. To get 3 points away when I mean it's got to be one of the longest journeys in the Premier League, right? Brighton to Newcastle for an away day.
I think
Um,
so.
South Coast to Newcastle's damn near up to Scotland. Um, so it's a long trip. So great 3 points for you guys.
People
Um,
people
yeah, go ahead.
don't get results there either. Like I don't think City beat them away last year. That's a tough place
Mhm.
to play, and to get a goal in the 35th minute and then just hang on. I'm super super impressed.
Certainly, yeah. I think you know, Newcastle would probably be, and maybe maybe a little teaser for a different episode. But like top five soccer stadiums I'd like to visit in England, like
Mhm.
Newcastle would be on that list. Yeah, I know I got to see the stadium from the outside years ago when I was over there, and I was taking the train from London to Edinburgh, and it goes through Newcastle, and you came by the Tyne, right? And as you go over, you can see the stadium. So it's pretty cool. It's definitely on the bucket list.
One of the not to get too nerdy, but one of my favorite indie wrestling promotions back when What Culture was doing a promotion, What Culture Pro Wrestling, they were
Mhm.
based out of Newcastle, so used to watch their shows.
I will say I've like as a Villa fan, I've thought about buying one, but like the old school, the Newcastle football kits with the Newcastle beer sponsors on them.
Mm,
Oh, it's a fantastic kit. But I digress. But no, yeah, great weekend. Did you have any other notes you wanted to like feelings coming out of this game? Who do you guys have coming up this weekend?
we have Wolves, so
Well, I'm sorry, Wolves. Yeah, you did say that. Yeah.
yeah, that's a trap game, or at least when Deserby was here, that was a trap game. So we'll see what happens. Um, I guess my final note is, or a couple. Kadioglu, still I think taking some time to get used to the Premier League game, but the fact that he can seamlessly move from left back to right back is just going to be huge for us. Especially, I don't know if it's necessarily him being better than Estupian or Hertzler being afraid to hurt Estupian. So, well, it'll be interesting to see how that goes going forward. Veltman's been perfectly serviceable at right back, and then Igor Webster got his fair share of crap as we talked about before. Um, but I think if Van Hecke is not going to be ready to go, then Igor needs to be the guy. He's fantastic on the ball. He's been calm, collected, played really really well against Newcastle.
Yeah, for sure. He's I guess depending on like, if you were playing like a team like Nottingham Forest where you need a center back to like really body up on somebody and Webster is probably better suited for that style of play, but for most of the Premier League now you need a ball playing center back, and having Igor in there next to Dunk is allows you guys to continue some of that same passing style build up from those center back positions. So
Yeah.
I agree with that for sure. Um, yeah. So go to Villa then from the weekend. Travel down to London, Craven Cottage. Another cool stadium, not in my top five, but certainly if someone asked if I was in London, I'd be like, oh yeah, sure, for sure. But Villa going down there, our away form has actually been fantastic this year. Our only loss right now in the league was at home to Arsenal, so in good form. But Fulham's been playing really well. Emil Smith Rowe and Raul Jimenez has been fantastic for them. Yeah, so they've put together like a really solid season so far. So I felt a little bit like it could be a trap game, especially coming off international break. Um, and then what was it 5 minutes in, route one kick from Leno straight down the middle. Jimenez just bodies Pau Torres, and that's really the only complaint I have about Pau. He's very much a Cadillac in the same mold as like a Thiago Silva, where he is excellent on the ball. He's going to make all the right passes, be in the right places, but he's just not going to win a physical duel all the time. Jimenez bodies him off of it, and fair crack to him. He hits a perfect shot off the inside of the post. Goal. They're up 1-0. And then I think it was um, in the ninth minute, Morgan Rogers gets a ball into his feet, and he's got lots of stuff that I feel like he could polish up, but he is just such a fucking tank when he's on the ball, like driving the ball forward through the middle of the pitch. But he loves to just turn and go at people, and he turned, took it like two touches, and like tried to like just blast one between three defenders, just make something happen. Gets a great deflection off of a defender, goal. There we have it, 1-1. Um, 24th minute, there's a VAR review. I think it was a handball. Is what it was. I think Matty Cash, maybe. Yeah, Matty Cash, maybe. With a handball, they get the PK, and Pereira steps up and hits, honestly, a poor PK. Emmy getting the save is fantastic, and part of his narrative of his abilities on PKs. But to be fair, it was a poor PK from them. But that really like was huge for us, because from that moment on, we kind of like really like kicked forward in the game. Um, I think it was, who got the second goal? Can't remember if Ollie's came first. It might have been. Oh, it was Ollie's. I apologize. So in the second half, corner kick, just a perfect ping from Tillmans, and Ollie just kind of steps back and turns, and just perfect contact right underneath the bar, beats Leno right over top of him, go up 2-1. And then there's I think the red card was either shortly before or shortly after for Anderson, taking down Ollie on a perfect pass from Morgan Rogers. He just laid it out right behind Anderson. Watkins steps across him. Anderson follows him, red card. Um, and we had that second goal right in about that time, and it was shortly after that Diop got an own goal just to kind of ice it for us. So 3-1. It's honestly a good win for us on the road. Keeps us in that top area. I think we're still 4 points off of, or 3 or 4 points off of Liverpool. So yeah, great result for us. Even with as good as we started last year, this season is now our best ever Premier League start. So it's great for us. I want to keep kicking on. I'm worried that we're hitting the meat and potatoes of our schedule here pretty soon, but we'll get into that. And then we only have a couple days rest. Coming in on Tuesday, we have Champions League. We're hosting. I'm just gonna call him Baloney just to be tongue in cheek. But
wait.
yeah.
I got a question. So
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
The PK, right?
Mm-hmm.
They made a big deal out of Tielemans sort of like doing the run up with the penalty taker. Like what does that have to? Is that just him goofing off? Does that help Martinez? I'm not quite sure what that was.
Honestly, I didn't notice it, and I went to try to go back to watch it. I just didn't get around to it. But I didn't notice it when I was watching the game. I didn't notice it when I watched the highlights back. But is he like behind like the kicker when
Yeah,
he's running up? Like,
yeah, he's like way back off the arch, right? You know, the arch on the penalty box. So the guy's taking it here. Tielemans
mhm.
is here and kind of like off canter or whatever. And then as he goes, he's literally moving step for step with the stutter.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that's like something for Martinez or what, but like he just moves with him. Like he nails it. He does the exact same movement.
Hmm. I mean, it could be something they talked about that, like, uh, that Yuri knows. I don't like. I mean, Pereira and Martinez see each other a lot more, being South Americans. So I didn't know if they like he just had a beat on him from international player, more information or what. But um, I don't think it like in this case. I'm not going to say anything helped more than the fact that Pereira just hit a
Yeah.
poor shot. And Emmy, like, to his credit, one of the hardest things to do as a goalkeeper in PKs is to be patient enough to wait. It's such a game of chicken about who's going to go first, and to be able to trust your reactions enough to really sit and wait and be able to try to react is an incredible skill. So I give him credit for waiting, but it allowed him just to kind of fall on a fairly easy shot. So
I'll reiterate that I think the stutter step should be illegal. I don't I don't
yeah,
like it's already such an advantage to the shooter. Like you got to keep your heels on the line as a keeper. Like the step should go away. It's already way too easy to score a goal like that.
yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that There, the fact of the matter is they're not going to change any of that sort of stuff because they want the goals to go in.
Yeah.
Just because this sport doesn't score in the same way that like American football or basketball or something like that does, um, doesn't put off the fact that soccer would love to include more goals to the bottom line. So they're
Yeah.
not going to change anything to protect the goalie that way. So it is what it is. It makes it that much sweeter when you do have a good record as a PK keeper, um, because you do get guys that like you have to be. The thing is like the setter step isn't. It is unfair, but only if you have this again. You have the balls to wait for the keeper to commit first, right? It's why I was describing it as a game of chicken, especially when you do it in that way, because at that point, even if Pereira had wanted to like change last second, or he saw that Emmy was going the right way, he had no opportunity to put any more power into that because he'd already killed all his momentum coming into it. It was just a swing of his leg at that point.
Yeah.
And like, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't make those late adjustments. So, um, yeah, I think it's unfair advantage and super inconsistently called, but at the same time, it doesn't change. It shouldn't change the goalkeeper's approach. I think that people are starting to time some of that stuff out. So
Yeah.
just my 2 cents. But, sorry, that was a good question. Sorry, do you have any other questions for the Premier League sort of setup?
No,
We
it
yeah.
I was gonna say
We
going
are.
into
Go
oh go
ahead.
ahead. I was saying going into your European matchup, I didn't know how worried you were about Vincenzo Italiano and them boys.
An Italian named Italiano it's a hard one for me to wrap around. It reminds me of like you see like someone from England and their last name's English, and you're like, okay, like it's just fucking it's just weird, man. Uh, no, yeah, no. There, I was excited about the opportunity to probably see Illian Jr., who's on loan from Villa, uh, to be able to see him play, and he did get in the second half. Um, but mostly I was excited because I think I sent you guys like a text. I'm gonna find it while I'm looking, but uh, it was the first time in a very very long time that Villa's been healthy, right? And so I sent the message to you guys. All right, so this lineup, which Olsen, take your or leave him, but then we have Cash, Boharda, or Bogard, however you say it, Mings and Dean, Kamara and Barkley at center defensive mid with Ramsey, Buendia, and Philogene in your midfield and Watkins as your striker. That was our bench for that game in the Champions League. And again, we started Duran, Morgan Rogers, Leon Bailey, Onana, Tielemans, Pau Torres, Ian Matson started in this game. Cones is back from injury. Diego Carlos. The it is the deepest and healthiest we've ever been to the point where I'm like, I'm glad that we're this healthy, but I wouldn't want to make those choices. There's some of those guys that are going to take a little bit of time to get to match fitness, like Kamara, Buendia, and Mings are going to take time. Buendia's been slowly being worked back in. I think Kamara will also be slowly worked back in. But with all of those pieces available, the options and your ability to compete on multiple fronts becomes pretty exciting. So that part I was probably the most excited about coming into the game. But just about the game, I think that we from the jump, I thought we outplayed them for most of the game. We had a couple of panicky situations in the first half where they had some opportunities to score, and Martinez made a couple of just again really really good saves. Put ourselves in some bad positions, but outside of that, like I said, I think largely we dominated the game. I think it was they pushed us until the 50 something minute before we scored. And then the inevitable one, which we talked about with Mike, the safest bet in sports right now is a Duran anytime goal. And he was able to get one. I don't have a lot more to say about that game other than I thought that Leon Bailey struggled in the first half, and I appreciated that they let him come out in the second half and really try to find his feet. His form is way down from last year. I don't know if I know he had taken some knocks, but he just looks shook for confidence. So I'm glad to see him work through some of that confidence. And hopefully, we need him, to be at his best. But even getting McGinn back, and we'll have some people pushing him on that side. But we need a healthy Leon to really go deep this year. But we saw Kamara come out and play. But I don't have a lot to say about that game other than it's another win in the Champions League. As we sit here speaking today with the second match day done this week, Villa is leading the Champions League table, which is something I didn't think I'd be saying. A 36-team table with, arguably all of the best teams in Europe is kind of wild. So I'll enjoy it while it's there, but start dreaming about finishing in that top 8 where you have a quote unquote bye the first round, and then you'd host the round of 16 game, going forward. So I think that, or at least the first one. I can't remember the format if you still play home and away I think you do. But anyway, that would be great. If we finish in the top 8, that'd be ideal for us. So
I'm starting to kind of like the new setup. I mean, obviously my team's not playing in it, so I don't have any complaints, but
right.
It's kind of interesting to me. And if that's the way it's going to be, then I guess that's the way it's going to be. One thing I forgot to mention about the matchup with Fulham, the Emi Martinez Leno matchup is kind of like just weird butterfly effect football. The guy he took over for after Malpe apparently injured him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of coincidences in there for sure. Yeah, and what a divergence of the careers of those two guys, right? I think Leno still had a successful career, but he went from being on one of the premier clubs in the Premier League to Fulham, which is still a Premier League club. And then, Emmy goes on to Villa, and Villa somehow turns into a good team and wins a World Cup with Argentina. So just crazy the directions that little shit like that takes. It's a good point. I hadn't drawn that comparison, but
yeah, that's wild to me. But definitely congrats to you guys. I mean, people could say what they want. Um, say what they want about like, oh, like you beat Bologna, but I mean, you win the games that are put in front of you, and I mean, obviously they're in the Champions League, so top four in
Yeah.
Serie A, like that's no joke. Those are every game is a tough game. Every game in this tournament for you guys is going to be a tough game. So it's been
Oh,
fun
for sure.
watching you guys.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we still have Juventus left. We still have, and like I know that they're 0-3, but we still have Leipzig in Leipzig. And that's going to be a very hungry team at that point. We still have Monaco away, and they, they've played well. Um, but yeah, I agree. Like I think I sent this to um, some of my friends, I think last Champions League match week, but I was like, I didn't want to like it, but I am enjoying it. I like that there's no more like, we'll get them on the return leg, just to
Yeah.
steal a point. Everybody is playing for it, right? And you see results like fucking Lille beat both Madrids already in the Champions League. They beat Real and Atletico. They did it at Atletico today, 3-1. Um, so some of the results have been wild. Bayern Munich's already lost 2 games.
Barcelona spanked them today,
Barcelona did spank them, yeah.
4-1.
Barcelona is scary, mostly because of some of those young guys through La Masia. But yeah, man, like, it's been fun though. It's interesting that like the group phase, if you will, goes all the way till the end of January, which is different, right? We used to be done before Christmas. Now it stretches out a little bit more, so just getting used to that. But I like that we play a bunch of different teams. The 36 team table is absolute fucking chaos to like try to uh, look at, but um, I probably am liking it because my team is doing well too. So I'll take that with a grain of salt. But
Yeah. I've enjoyed the games I watched. I got to see the Pulisic Olympiaco goal. I
mm-hmm.
got to see a bit of the Dortmund Real Madrid matchup,
Mm-hmm.
which was just insanity. I actually turned it off while they were up, and then checked the score later and was like, "Oh, what the fuck, man! That team is too good."
When they get it together, right? Like that's the
Yeah,
that's the thing is once they put it all together. But yeah, I mean, the talent is just going to show up like that sometimes. There's nothing. I mean, like there's nothing Dortmund was going to be able to do about it. They get moving like that.
yeah.
Um, so I did want to. I think I posed this question in the chat earlier. I did want to ask. You know, I don't think City's gonna slow down anytime soon, but inarguably the one player in their case that they couldn't afford to lose was Rodri. And with him going down, it sort of made me think about my club, right? I just talked about all the guys we have back healthy and the depth that we have. But what there's, with each club, there's still going to be one guy that you feel like your club isn't going to be able to do it without. So I'll start with you posing that question. For Brighton, who is the one player on that team that they cannot afford to lose?
So I tried to be slick with it and like think of something because my answer ended up being sort of the most obvious answer I thought. And I was like, maybe there's someone else, but no, it's Kaoru Mitoma. There's
Mm-hmm.
you saw what happened to us last year when he went down for an extended period of time, and yeah, we won the match this past weekend without him starting. He came onto the field, but the the offense seems to run through him. Minte, they kind of, I don't want to say they figured him out, but he's a young guy. He's going to struggle. Matoma is what makes Brighton's attack move, and without him, you can see it last year. We fell apart without him. So please keep him healthy.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's super talented, and I like him. I made a point to ask about him on the bench this past weekend, but also, Brighton. You guys aren't in Europe, but you still have lots of games. So like, leg management or managing the players' time is also important. So
Yeah.
thinking about that too. Um, Yeah, mine is not cute. Is very obvious. It's Emmy Martinez. There's there are a lot of very talented players that would be terrible to lose. I love Duran, but he's not ready to carry the load. If Watkins got hurt, exclusively. But there is no replacement for Emmy Martinez and what he does and what he brings to that team. The last couple of weeks, we've had pretty good results. But honestly, if you go back and watch those games, there's at least one or two, maybe three times in those games where Emmy Martinez just makes an absolute world class play. Absolutely like plays that no one on our roster is like Joe Gauchi, Robin Olsen, um, Zeich. I can't remember his first name. None of those guys can do what Emmy Martinez does. And if this team is going to be successful, we're deep enough that we can eat a few injuries as they come, especially as sitting here now. I don't want any of that, knock on wood. But if Emmy Martinez misses any extended period of time, that absolutely changes what our goals are, our trajectory for the season. Like I think that like forward planning would be changed if he was out. There is a next man up mentality, but there's no replacing Emmy Martinez. So
Yeah, but I had put that in my notes as well. Like that, there was a point in time where people were talking about Donnarumma coming up as he got older, he'd become the best and all this stuff. It's that dude's rise is like storybook worthy. Like he went from, like we
sure.
talked about earlier, Leno's backup at Arsenal to the best goalie undisputed in the world. Like there's nobody better than him right now.
It's wild. Like you're right. He was at Arsenal what 6 years as a backup or something like that, or like just in their locker in their room. He wasn't Argentina's starter until recently. Like I mean that was Sergio Romero,
Hmm.
uh, former United guy and stuff like that. But um, yeah, it's incredible. Like the year that Leno got hurt and he played that well. I was still surprised that Arsenal let him go. Like you saw him day in and day out for years, including putting on like a really classy season as the starting goalkeeper. And you're like, ooh, you know what I could do? Sell him.
Yeah.
And the deal now, I think it was like 30 million. No, it couldn't have been that much because that would have been Villa's record at the time. That'd have been like 20 some million. Um, and like everyone's like, oh, Villa's overpaying for him. Like, and what a fucking steal it is now. I'll look it up later what we actually paid for him, but it's just been unbelievable. He's played himself into like just a fantastic goalkeeper. I think I said I was worried, when we were talking about like a year, 2 years ago when we were doing this pod. I was worried that if we didn't get Champions League, that we would lose Emmy Martinez. Like, especially once he won the World Cup, he's made it very clear that he wants to push for be able to challenge for Champions League titles, challenge for Premier League titles. Like those are the things that he wants to do professionally. He's still got lots of time as a goalkeeper, but he's very focused on doing those things, and Villa's providing it, which is it's just crazy to me. It's yeah, his rise has been right there with Villas, recently, and I've enjoyed it.
He's a fun player to watch, definitely. Really, really good. I'm sure Arsenal's looking at David Raya like we could have
I mean, I
Martinez.
I will say that like friend of the show, Matt Babel, that I grew up with, he's a big gunner, and um, he like he tries to have serious discussions with me that Raya is better than Emmy Martinez. And I'm like, Raya is like the third goalkeeper for Spain. Emmy
Yeah.
Martinez is the starting goalkeeper for World Cup champion Argentina. Like, what are you talking about? Like, anyway, I don't see it with Raya. Raya is good. I'm not taking it. He's a good goalkeeper. Um, he's not Emmy Martinez. Like,
No.
no,
There's certain points in time, like I believe I've brought it up before, where I'll watch a game and Raya looks world class, and then there's other times where he just looks like a doofus. So
yeah, for sure.
yeah, there's no way. But so if we're off a team talk, one of the things I wanted to have a conversation about was overall, the sort of red card extravaganza this past match week, and then also the main focus being Saliba's red card in the Arsenal match. Arsenal fans continue to cry foul about how the season has been going. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the play, but I have a lot of Arsenal friends here in El Paso, so I kind of take a minor interest in their goings on, and I watched the play a few times, and I think it goes back to what is VAR there for if we're going to sit there and analyze things for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, like why not?
It's not
And
clear and
maybe it's,
obvious at that point, right? Like, I
yeah,
mean, like if you can't, like, there should be a rule. If you can't come to like a concrete decision within 30 seconds, then the call on the field stands. But
yeah.
like, because like to sit there and and like I'll even push that more once they go to automatic offsides. But sorry, I didn't mean to turn it into a VAR thing. But yeah, man, it's supposed to
Oh, well,
be
no,
clear and
that's
obvious.
that's what it is. It is a VAR thing because, again, and it might be my bias showing because I like Arsenal to win in those situations because it's my friends or whatever, so I'm happy for them. But like when I watch the play, he he is the last man. Like I understand the call on the field. Like that is a red card. He's the last man. He's denying a clear scoring opportunity. But if I was a ref and I sat there and I watched it, you see Saliba barely touch the guy, and the guy flings his arm up and rolls. And at that point, I would say, like, okay, he's trying to draw a foul. I'm going to reverse this.
I don't think that you can reverse. Uh, um, if you see the contact, no matter like the dramatics of it, like you can't
Hmm.
reverse just because he's being a douche about it. Like unless
Yeah,
he like unless they're like if you look at that video slow motion and he is like screaming like he's Neymar, but the guy makes contact with him, then that's the call. If you
yeah,
looked at that and it's not even within like inches of him, it's very clear he didn't touch him not even in the slightest. That's
yeah.
when you can overturn it and do that sort of stuff. But um, yeah, it's the sleeper red card was I would argue was more clear and obvious than even Anderson's against Ollie Watkins. Like that one for me, Watkins didn't flop around and scream for it, but he certainly manufactured it. He knew
Hmm.
exactly what you know what I'm saying. Like if you look at the pass, it's put in a spot that only he's going to get to, and all he has to do is come across. So as soon as he touches it and comes across Anderson, Anderson makes contact. Watkins goes down, and that's all she wrote. But the contact is, you're right, to the same point, very minimal. But again, it's the striker manufacturing calling, beating the defender to that spot, regardless of how weak it is. They did their job, and that's unfortunately part of the game. It's not that part that's not going to go away.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought it was a red card. Just like I thought the one for the Fulham game was a red card as well. It's that's the rule of the game, denying a clear scoring opportunity, and the forward in both cases made the foul happen. So
Yeah. I I don't believe in the conspiracy thing. Like I just think that's silly, but it maybe it'll be studied in a few years, like after the season's done, about how extremely talented Arsenal was and how they just kept three stooging themselves
oh,
out of
it's
a Premier
it's
League title.
it's 100% reflective of their manager. Like
Yeah.
I'll say and tell anybody like uh that's the one thing Arteta doesn't have is he can't keep his fucking like can't keep his emotions in check. And what is Arsenal's biggest issue as a team? Can't
Yeah.
keep their emotions in check. Like you are going to be, reflective of that, reflective of your manager. And the longer things go and the more people sing your praises about how good you are, your title's contender, blah, 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 you're going to get full heads, make stupid, frustrated plays. Um, he's good for them tactically. Like he's done a good job for them, but they're never gonna make that like last hurdle. Even with all like the changes that happened at Liverpool, Liverpool still look more like a title contender than Arsenal do.
Yeah.
mostly because they're more professional. Not even because they're more talented, although they're very talented. But
Yeah. I I don't know. I'm gonna look into it more, I think, and just see this year's red cards versus last year's red cards, and see if there's any sort of correlate or any sort of rise in them this year. But it does seem like there is a lot throughout the league. Like you had, did Kudus get a red for his or
he did on
yeah,
review. He got it right, and I actually
yeah,
might. I heard because it was a straight red, so it was 3. But somebody said he might get 6 because he actually threw 2 open hand slaps or whatever you want to say. Like they're forceful enough, but like um, they weren't punches, I guess.
yeah. And it's just it. I mean, I understand players acting up and stuff like that, but like you have to punish that. But it just seems like there's a shit ton of cards this year. But um, Kudus could have gone to Brighton and he chose West Ham. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I, I don't know what it's like to choose. I assume Brighton is a lovely place, but it's certainly not London. So there's a lot more things that if you are part of, if you want to be the full footballer lifestyle, I suppose, um, you end up in London being a joke with a joke with West Ham, and if you want to be a serious footballer, you go to Brighton. So.
I don't know. Maybe I grew up a beach kid, small beach town kid, so it always appealed to me. I think I'd rather stay out of the city.
Oh, I 100% would. I would get so yeah claustrophobic, but
Yeah.
I
And that
was
place,
looking to see if I could see the red cards. I couldn't find them.
yeah. Um, I think there was something else I wanted to talk about. Oh, just real quick. Chelsea lost this weekend, so
Oh, just yeah,
thumbs up for
just
that.
joy there. Um, it is good. Honestly, though, like Liverpool look very good as
Yeah.
well. So um, somebody's gonna have to figure them out. They're defensively they're playing so well right now. I think they've only conceded 5 goals in 8 games or something like that. It's outstanding. So um, they're ones to watch. If they can stay healthy going forward. Um, you know, they everyone made a big deal about them not signing anybody, but also I think they had a pretty good squad to begin with. So. And I know they signed Chiesa, but that wasn't until the end of the window. So
Yeah. Uh, Gravenberch has been a revelation for them. That dude is playing out of his mind this year.
oh, for sure. Yeah, I felt like he never really got Klopp's full support. Like he never got like an extended run out with the
Yeah.
team. But under Slot, he's been is it Slot or Sloot? I can't remember.
Salute. I've
Sloot.
heard people say either way. Like I feel more comfortable saying slot than I do salute.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm always worried I'm gonna like mumble it into a slut, but no, I think he hasn't played really well. Yeah, like Liverpool look great, but we can if you I know I think that was kind of other than our um combined joy on Chelsea losing. We do have a top 5 prepared for today. You want to explain to the people what our top 5 list is?
So Jimmy and I are both Levitard show fans, and they always talk about like top like the your favorite bucket getters in the NBA, which is guys like um, Jay Crossover. I can't remember for the life of me his last name now. Um, but guys who were like not superstar NBA players, not like all-star players, but they could get you a bucket. So sort of in the same vein as that, we've done a top 5. The streets will never forget footballers. So just guys that were never like the greatest player in the world, but they carved out a niche for themselves and people remember them to this day.
No, that's fair. I think that you're going to see in our lists a little bit different interpretations of that, which makes it fun, and that's the point. So, um, Jake's mom, if you could leave in the comments your top 5, I'd appreciate it. No. Um, All right. I'm gonna get us started because I know you've mentioned how your OLI is, but my OLI outside looking in, and this is the only one that might be um I didn't feel as great about, but one that I think it should be mentioned is Eden Hazard. And I know that it's not like he was forgotten, but also I feel like people did quickly like forget how good he was at Chelsea because he struggled the last 2 or 3 years at Real Madrid. But there was a time when, especially some of those years with Chelsea when they were like winning the league and dominating, that he was very much a top five player in the world. This is the ability to control the game. The ball would stick to his feet. He could fly. He could crack a shot. He was unbelievable. So I did want to just make sure that someone somewhere said Eden Hazard's name one more time when it came to a top five list.
So I thought of a guy literally as we started recording who I wanted to add to my OLI. So before I do the 2-in-1, and it made me feel better with you saying Hazard because this is one of those situations where it's gonna be like, well, he was playing for the best team in the world, but it's Keylor Navas, probably one of the most
Mm-hmm.
disrespected players of all time. Champions League winner with Real Madrid. He's won everywhere he's gone. He was probably at one point, maybe as Ochoa started to go downhill, probably the best player in CONCACAF for a while. The guy was just fucking incredible. 6'1", star for Real Madrid. He's played all over the place. Believe he's with Monza now in, I don't know if they're Serie A, but they might be Serie B right now. Oh no, they are Serie A, Monza. So good for him. Glad he's still doing his thing. But yeah, Keylor Navas, big shout out.
Nice. No, that's a good one. I have a goalie on my list, but not Navas. Number five for me is probably the last. It's not even fair to say the last player that has like a more of an extended career versus a flash in the pan. But I think one guy who is quickly forgotten when we talk about some of the best strikers from the early 2000s. Um, he does have a golden boot in the Premier League. Really tied with it, but technically he's got the trophy. It's a Spurs legend, a United legend. It's Dimitar Berbatov.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, scored like 160 goals in like a 10-year stretch with between Leverkusen and Spurs, United, and some other clubs in there. But won Champions League with United in '08 when he moved over. Uh, just an outstanding player, super underrated. His first touch, quick shot ability. He was one of my favorites to watch. And when people talk about some of the best strikers that United had over that dominant 20-year period, not a lot of people mention Berbatov. You get lots of Ruud van Nistelrooy's and Wayne Rooney's and the obvious ones, but Berbatov was very much, had a huge impact on that club. So he's my number five.
Berbatov is the one, like, I used to always see the play where it was someone like hard cross in and he sort of like matrix kicks it and stops it and just brings it down. Like he
Oh
like
yeah,
fully extends and then just brings it down on his foot. That dude
yeah.
was nuts.
His first touch is incredible for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So my number five, and uh a British lower league legend. We've discussed him on the pod before. Adebayo Akinfenwa. And if you guys have never seen this dude,
Oh,
look him
boy's
up.
jacked.
He is just, but he's not like, for the people who have never seen him, he's not like Adama Traore jacked.
Mm-mm.
He's just like that. He's like a brick shit house. He's just a huge human, just big dude,
Mm-mm.
huge thighs, and like his upper body is like shaped like a barrel, but just a straight up baller. I think a lot of fans in the United States fell in love with him during the coverage of the League One
Wickham
playoffs.
Wanderers, right?
Yeah, with Wickham, his little post game speech talking about like how much it means to the fans and stuff like that. Like, um, he played really really well throughout that season. It got Wickham into the championship. So,
Yep.
um, big shout out to him. Big, definitely pun intended. Uh, awesome dude.
No, for sure. That's a great shout out. Yeah, I hadn't thought about him. Yeah, I remember the interviews, like the post game interview, and then he did like some other like media appearances. He seemed like such like a nice human too. So,
Yeah.
um, very cool. All right, number 4 for me. Another guy with like a pretty underrated career. Only had eight caps for his national team, but he was the first midfielder in Premier League history to 100 goals. He's also arguably the greatest penalty kick taker of all time. 47 of 48 in his career. Only had one PK saved. Never missed a PK. Only has had one saved. It's Southampton legend Matt Letizia. Um, they call him Lay God. Well, they did before he turned into a fucking whack job. But as a player, just outstanding. So many like fun, exciting goals. You know, he carried Southampton for shit more than a decade. I think he finished his career with like something like 150 goals, or 140 something goals. But as a midfielder, you know, just an outstanding player. And hard stop at player because he's a trash human. But Matt Letizia, number 4.
he he's one of those guys that you hear about from other players, like when they do like the former player interviews, and if they're not talking about how mean the gaffer was, his name comes up a lot.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So my number 4 goes back to my love of early 2000s Brazilian football. It's Denilson, especially his time at Real Betis. He was one of those guys that you would see like the dribbling videos of all the time, or the skill moves, and he was a very very tricky winger. Um, he he always stuck out to me because you would see his moves, his skill moves. He'd fake someone just right out of their shorts, and then he would go on to goal, and the video would cut out because he just couldn't fucking score. Like the dude just could not shoot. But part of that 2002 super team for Brazil, I don't really think he got any minutes throughout the tournament, but um, just a legendary dribbler of the ball, and he's played all over the place. Played at Al Nasser in 2006, 2007, way before it was cool, Ronaldo. So
Mm-hmm.
FC Dallas guy for like 8 games. Went back to Brazil, and I think he took like some Chinese money too. So, but yeah, Danielson, uh, very very cool guy, or very very cool player. Go check him out if you got time.
No, for sure. That's I like that too. Like I like where guys like are just like, you know what, I'm just gonna fucking keep playing. Um it's a good shout out. All right, number 3 for me. We're getting more into our my what I'm gonna call my flash in the pan section here. Is 2012, 2013 legend. And honestly, and this has been documented in interviews, but um, you know, a player that Erling Haaland idolized, you know, and you know wanted to emulate one of his first strikers that he really loved. It's Michu for Swansea. He had 18 goals in 2012, 2013. You know, just he was unstoppable that season. The bit about Haaland is not a joke. You can go look it up. When Haaland was a kid, he talks about Michu. Um, but you know, it's one that it's such a small sample size because there's nothing remarkable before and nothing really remarkable after. But that time at Swansea, I remember when it was happening. Just unbelievable. So, uh, player that definitely doesn't deserve to be forgot. The streets won't forget. Me too.
You know what? I don't know a lot about him, but I have heard
Just
the
go
Holland part.
just go look up Michu 2012, 2013 goal highlights.
Hmm.
It's fun. He's got some fun finishes there. But like it's so wild just because he just was from nothing to unstoppable to nothing. But yeah, hot for a whole season for sure.
So my number 3, and I'm probably gonna butcher this name, is ow, little fucker. The cat just attacked my leg. Adele Tarabat Tarap
Tarap.
Tarap.
Yeah.
Uh, QPR. I'm pretty sure anyone I guess of our age has seen the videos of him at QPR. Just
Yeah.
absolute insanity the way he was on the ball. Bit of a head case too from the stories I've heard. A bit of a pain in the ass to manage. Um, but yeah, like anyone that's seen his videos will understand why he was so remembered.
No, for sure. No, I like that. I like that one a lot. He was my OLI. He was definitely one that I considered. Yeah, man, he was exciting to watch. But a little bit like my number two, definitely known for not always getting along with everybody. But for me, this player has had a long career. In fact, I believe he's still playing currently. But I want to call out just one specific season that the streets will never forget, and that is the year in 2016 when he won the PFA Players of the Year award. It is Dimitri Payet at West Ham. Um, he was actually, I think, hurt for like a portion of that season too. But he was just unbelievable. Like some of the stuff that stands out, he had like a gorgeous curling free kick that was like postage stamped upper 90. Um, I think he even played with like France for the national team during that time. Um, and it was just that one year was so fantastic. I think by January the following year, he refused to play for them ever again, and then they sold him back to Marseille. And that's how it ended, like 18 months after that. But like for that one year at West Ham, he was the best player in the Premier League for that one season in a time. I mean, 15, 16 was the year after Leicester won it, right? So, yeah, there are lots of good players in there in that time, but Dimitri Payet is my number two.
Yeah, he's still going. Vasco da Gama. That's crazy.
Yeah,
37
down in
years old.
Brazil. Yeah, man.
So my number 2 is a bit of a homer pick, but he was kind of like the inspiration for me coming up with this top 5, and it's Danny Welbeck.
Mm.
Um, so much promise in the early years. Injuries derailed everything, but you could see it when he was playing when he was younger. Um, he never really did anything after that. He brief stint. Well, I wouldn't even say brief stint, but he was there at Arsenal for a good while, but only played 88 matches, 16 goals. But for Brighton, he's been a revelation. And then this season, like I think he had 5 goals all last year, and he has 5 already now. And luckily, this injury is not as bad as they thought it would be. And he should be back to scoring goals for us again. But yeah, this was, like I said, this guy was the inspiration for the list, because you could kind of always see it with him. Just his body kind of failed him, and he's been a rock for us as far as like bringing these young kids in and teaching them what it means to be a Premier League player, and playing really really well himself.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a great one. Throw a little Wele in there for you. But yeah, man, he's been going at it for a very long time. But yeah, another United Academy player. I think that it's been a while, but people used to talk about the players at United's Academy the way we talk about City players now, right? Where they're just academy players as far as the eye can see, playing for all these teams across the Premier League, like City does now. That's the way
Mhm.
United was. They used to generate talent like that too. So, um, yeah, no, it's a great shout out. All right, number one for me. I teased earlier that I do have a goalkeeper on my list, and my goalkeeper is my number one. Um, I'd like to notate that he in his career he scored 44 goals from open play, not PKs, from open play as a goalkeeper. Um, Famous for inventing what we now call the scorpion kick.
Mm.
Um, at 5'8", arguably one of the greatest goalkeepers of his generation. It's Rene Higuita for
Yes.
from Colombia. You know, just like he was built to play in this generation, right? Of sweeper keepers. He would have absolutely fucking drove Pep Guardiola nuts, but he reminds me a lot of Ederson, like modern day Ederson. Other than the fact that Ederson is a giant and Rene is 5'8", but he had an outstanding career, like a real, but also like lots of like extra intrigue, right? Like he went to prison for, I think it was for picking up the ransom money for a kidnapping
Yeah.
for because his, he was part of the Medellin cartel.
Yeah.
Played for Atletico Nacional in Colombia, which was owned by
Escobar.
yeah, by Escobar. Thank you. So yeah, like lots of extra intrigue around that. Just an incredible personality and just chaos on the field. But yeah, dude, you can't have that kind of sauce as a goalkeeper and put up those kind of numbers and have the streets forget you. So number one for me is Rene.
Absolutely. If you guys haven't watched it, A Tale of Two Escobars on ESPN 30 for 30 is probably one of my favorite ones that they do. Very sad ending.
Mm,
Because it deals with Andres Escobar, the defender who allowed the own goal in the '94 World Cup. That Colombian team was insane, and it had a lot to do with what they called narco ball, because it was like America de Cali, one of the other super teams from the Colombian league. They just rose from like nothingness into Atletico Nacional winning Copa Libertadores, which Colombian teams just didn't do. And one of the main
hmm
parts of that was Higuita was playing just out of his mind. That's a fucking awesome pick. That dude is insane.
Absolutely, yeah.
So my number one is a lot of people look to Ronaldinho as one of the best dribblers. I swear to God, I'm gonna kill these cats. As one of the best dribblers in the world, one of the best skill players in the world. But the guy that he looked up to, the guy who sort of brought him up when he was at PSG, is a man by the name of JJ Okocha.
Mm,
He is a Nigerian attacking midfielder. Just insane for that era. Like obviously before my time, before I was able to watch that, but you go back and you learn the history about him and you watch his videos. Like he was an innovator,
mm,
especially for that PSG team. Made it to the Premier League with Bolton for a while. It kind of was slowing down at that point, I believe. Ended up playing in Qatar and I think lower league for Hull. But his time at Frankfurt, Fenerbahce, and PSG, the guy was just out of this world, and I don't think he ever got the credit that he deserved. But yeah, superstar ability, but not really superstar notoriety.
no, for sure. I can't remember. Um, I can't remember where I heard it, but it was like one of those like Premier League away day videos that they do and the commentator JJ Okocha, a player so nice they or a striker so nice they named him twice or whatever the line was, but you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying, like JJ, yeah. But no, that's a great shout out too. Especially when you get notched. I would put that on my resume, like like the quote from a quote from Ronaldinho saying that I learned to dribble by watching this guy,
yeah,
or one of his favorite is that like that'd be what an endorsement, so
yeah. And then before we wrap up, two guys that completely slipped my mind but absolutely deserve to be on this list is Guti, a former Real Madrid player, sort of overshadowed in the Galacticos era. Like he was there before Galacticos and then sort of after Galacticos. From 1995 to 2010, he was in Real Madrid's system. Just an insanely talented midfielder, amazing passer of the ball, and never really got the credit he deserved. And then finally, the guy who honestly probably could have been number one on my list just for my affinity for Valencia is Pablo Aimar. In sort of the same way Ronaldinho and JJ were together, it was Messi looking up to Pablo Aimar growing up, saying that's who I wanted to play with. So, again, in the Galacticos era, he helped Valencia to 2 La Liga titles, Champions League runner-up, a UEFA Cup, and a UEFA Super Cup.
Yeah, it's solid. Yeah, for sure. You said Galacticos and it got me thinking. I want to tease this for next week. And if it's just you and I or Mike is welcome on this conversation. I want you to choose. Think about this and come with evidence of why you think this. But if you could only choose one Real Madrid team from either the quote unquote original Galacticos era, the 2002, 2003 team, whatever that was, would you choose that? Would you choose the Cristiano Ronaldo era, like the Ronaldo, Benzema, Bale era Real Madrid? Or would you choose today's Real Madrid, Kylian Mbappe, Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Jr.? I think that there's some discussions to be made, but some more research that needs to be done. So, and I know that's your least favorite topic because you hate Real Madrid, but it's impossible not to talk about some of the best teams in club football without talking about some of the rosters that those guys have assembled. So, put a pin in that. All right. Do you have a rant for us this evening? Anything you'd like to let me lay out for you.
I want to give a shout out to 2 El Paso Locomotive legends who retired, or at least had their last home match this past Saturday. If any of you see me on Twitter, I've been very, very bitter towards the club this past season. Just frustration sort of bubbling over. But this past Saturday was a chance to kind of take a deep breath and sort of look backwards at what really mattered for our club when we were on top of the West, and that was Yuma, who has been with the club since day one, and Eder Borelli, who had been with the club since year 2. Just 2 legends. Yuma came up through Rayo Vallecano's youth system. I believe he played a few La Liga matches for them. I know he played in the Segunda division, but he sort of bounced around and ended up coming over here when Mark Lowry got hired as our first ever manager. But it really got me thinking, sort of watching their videos and like how much they've meant to the club and what they were willing to do for the badge. And it just made me realize that there is nobody on this current squad that is worthy of filling their boots. There just isn't. And they called for season ticket renewal. They actually called my wife, and I had been talking to her about how I wasn't going to renew my tickets, and it's not my fandom coming into question. That's just not the case. It's just I can't keep giving them money if they're going to keep bringing out this product onto the field. Not to mention it was an increase in price this year for the 4th year in a row that I've bought season tickets for this club, and I'll still attend games. I'm obviously still a fan. I have the crest tattooed on my leg, and it's it's El Paso's club, but it's a disgrace right now the way they've run it and everything. And that, as much as I enjoyed those videos and saying goodbye to 2 legends, it just made me really bummed out for the future, because there is absolutely nobody that is currently on this roster that is going to behave in the way that Eder and Yuma did in regards to caring about the club.
That is hard. The last couple of years I've really tried to educate myself a little bit more about USL, and while I think that, the league has come a long way, there is still like a little bit of a nomadic nature to some of these players. So I think that, it's up to the ownership, right? But like there is opportunity to turn your roster over in a hurry, with that team. And so I mean, I hope for you guys that you're able to put on a more competitive club. I know um, until someday Grand Rapids figures out how to get a USL championship club. I've enjoyed following like Detroit this year, and in large part just because I needed a team. But like USL in general has just been fun this year, and it would be fun as I continue to do that to have somebody who isn't bummed out about watching it because their club is frustrating. So
Yeah.
I need El Paso to be good, so I have someone to talk to about USL Championship. So
Well, I mean, I'm always going to be watching. The thing that scares me the most is like the idea of punishing them in this way. It's the only way I figure. Like obviously, I'm like a drop in the bucket, kind of like they're not going to notice one guy canceling because I know there. I've talked to a lot of people who have said, I'm still going to renew, or I signed the
mhm.
2-year deal and this is the second year, so I'm stuck, kind of thing. So I don't know how much they're going to notice me leaving, and I don't want them to go broke, obviously, because USL teams, the majority of their income is game day merch
Yeah,
and food. So I don't want them to go away. I just want them to get their shit together. And I just don't see that happening under the current manager. In regards to like the roster turnover, we had a huge roster turnover this offseason. And I was very, very, I was super, super confident about it because every one of these dudes was a legitimate USL player, because that was always my complaint in the years before was, we're signing like Scandinavians to come play in a summer soccer league here in the US, especially in El Paso. Shout out to the Hydro Flask hydration break.
yeah,
But it never made sense to me. But then this year we went out and we got guys who have been good at this league, and it didn't click under the initial manager. They fired him. They brought in a guy who then just started bringing in his family and friends to come run the club with him, like his doofus son that I've cussed multiple times on the internet. And I I I had like one too many beers one night after a game, and I almost messaged him on Instagram saying like, "Hey, tell your dad you don't want to play anymore." So I was
don't be that guy. Don't do
no,
that.
I'm not gonna be that guy. But yeah, so I ended up having to block actually two Locomotive fans who kind of went off on me for being a fake fan. I got told to go root for New Mexico, but I just
Oof.
getting told to calm down. And the thing is I am calm. It's just the thing that makes me the most nervous is I it's almost to the point of where I'm bored talking shit at this point. And then it just
Yeah.
becomes not me not caring anymore. And I don't want that to ever be the case because I love the club. But yeah, they've made it really, really hard to be a fan the past 3 years.
What two quick hits then. First being, I just want you to know that I still like the story of you making eye contact with that first head coach when you told him or asked him if he enjoyed ruining his career with his decisions. I remember you telling that story, and I think about that a lot. And the other thing being is, at some point, I assume that like any sports team worth their salt is going to figure out that you didn't renew, and somebody from the ticket office is going to call you. If that hasn't already happened, maybe it has, and let me know if this question is dumb. But what would they have to say to you, like for you to be like, okay, I'm in? Like, I mean, what are you expecting from an inevitable call if it hasn't already happened?
So my extroverted wife already handled it for me. They called
Okay.
her and she said that we were going to take a break this year, but um what it would take is I want, and I'm going to say this in air quotes, I want Andy Cabrera. Your name is Wilmer Cabrera Jr. You're named after your dad, the manager of the fucking football club, you dork. I want him gone. I am willing. I listened to, shout out to Seriously Loco, the Locomotive podcast here done by fans. Some really, really good minds as far as media goes, but they even got burned out, and they were large gaps between episodes. But they had an episode recently, and they kind of made the case for Wilmer hanging around. Let's give him a year, so he'll have pretty much a season and a half to kind of prove that he can do what he's supposed to do. His results were better than I thought they were at RGV. That's where everyone knew him from. His results were better than I thought they were at RGV, but he still wasn't like a dominant dude. So the argument for him is like he's done more with less, and let's give him a club that actually has some resources. Mountain Star's got some money. Cat just jumped on my back. They're like spazzing out, man. Like, let's see what he can do on a club with some resources. I just like the things that he's done, the way he subbed people. I can't like get into it without going on like an hour-long spiel of like every way he's made me mad this year. But the main thing is his son has to go. Like that, it's just not a good look, and his kid is not a good player. And until his son is gone, I'm not going to believe that he's here for El Paso. I'm just going to continue to believe that he's here to get his buddies jobs.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a largely great episode. The rants are by nature a little negative, but it's we'll call this episode "Good Vibes." And we go into the weekend, and good luck to you guys with Wolves. I think that just be careful. They have been playing well, even though their record doesn't show it. I feel like I have a trap game with Bournemouth this weekend. They're a dangerous club to play against as well. So let's keep the good vibes train rolling, and one of these days, Jake's mom. I'm just gonna start referencing you as our only fan. Wink, wink. We'll have all three of us back, and it'll be a good time. But as always, buddy, we'll talk again next week.
Definitely. Yeah, just don't get a red against Bournemouth and you'll be fine.
That's the key.
That's the key. There you go. And then I'll end it with this. El Paso Locomotive, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.